Welcome to the podcast. We're so glad you joined us today. It is a beautiful day in the neighborhood, and we have so many exciting things to talk about. Actually, we're going to cut right into it, right?
Let's go.
We are here with our lovely and amazing eldest daughter and the program coordinator
of your life.
Our major accomplishment.
I'm the most humble of all the children, obviously.
Katie Gimbola,
Oh, goodness,
our
yes.
eldest daughter, is with us
Yeah,
in
she's
the
our
studio today.
our special guest, asking our every woman questions, every mom questions,
Every mom,
right?
every
Yep.
parent.
When we travel around, we love although we give presentations, we help lead retreats, we do a whole bunch of things, right? When we travel around. But I love just talking to people and answering questions and just having discussions and conversations with them.
One of our favorite things to do, honestly, is answering questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like when we're up there and people just just raise their hand, we get like rapid fire questions. But the thing is, there's never enough time to answer all the questions that we get.
Yes.
Or for us to because we, tend to talk.
We do. So Katie, part of your job today is like, okay, we're moving on.
Wrap it up. I need one of those
right.
cartoon right here on the stage. You're like, yeah, let's go.
Very true. But before we get into the questions,
Okay.
we just want to talk really quick about the family board meeting. We're still open for registrations for the family board meeting.
Barely.
If you would like, yes, absolutely. Barely. Because we are going to be closing registrations pretty soon.
That's right.
But if you would like to join us virtually, allow us to help you.
Help us
walk
help
through,
you.
Yeah, help us help you. But walk through that process, this important process of the family board meeting. Sign up immediately so we can get you your materials in time.
Yes.
And I just have to say, we did our first family board meeting. If anybody who's like on the fence, I was on the fence for a while because I'm like, mom and dad do it, whatever. But we did it for the first time a year ago, and it has changed. Both me and
Really?
Jorge were just like, okay, whatever. But what is your parents are like, yeah, whatever. But I mean, it changed our life. It's amazing. So if anyone's on the fence, just do it. Just do it because it's so amazing.
It's the process. It's the process that we're guiding you through. And the magic happens in the conversations between the two of you.
And that's what it was. You
That's
guys,
right.
it's just the tools. We had never had tools like that presented to us. And it's just every family needs to do it.
Yeah.
Because it really does open up a whole level of conversation that, at least as we talk to other couples, they're like, we never had time to have these kind of conversations. Right. And we were the excuse they needed to have some big conversations. And we gave them a pathway so that they didn't feel overwhelmed with it, that there was okay, here's a step-by-step process. Here are some questions. Here's some exercises. And we walk you through that in a real
It just totally.
way. So I agree with you. It is fun.
It just totally clicked. So I had to give that.
Thank you. Actually, that's really helpful. Thank you. It's much more interesting than just the two of us talking. Other thing is
the Good News Cruise.
The Good News Booze Cruise. I'm sorry.
We're going to edit that out later.
Out of here.
No, I'm just kidding. It's a Catholic cruise.
So
that means there's definitely going to be booze. No,
we mentioned, I don't know if I can even talk over all your laughter.
Sorry. Go ahead.
She's getting a little excited, I think. No, but the Good News Cruise, we were invited, headliners, Scott and Kimberly Hahn, Father Mike Schmitz, so excited. So awesome. Dr. Ray Guarendi, Teresa Tomeo. There's a whole bunch of people. I think Al Cresta. There's going to just be some amazing, amazing people who are going to be a part of this cruise. And we'll be there the whole time to hang out with you. So it would really be great if you joined us on the Good News Cruise, which is focused on it's really a marriage oriented cruise.
Yes.
It's a faith, your marriage, recuperating, re-energizing, reinvigorating, re-inspiring you in your marriage.
So in 2023, my parents actually went on the Good News Cruise 2023. Right. We are doing 2024. January 2024. And they loved it.
They were over
absolutely loved it.
Young and old married couples will love this.
Yes. And if you come to through this, whatever, through us, and you go on to the Good News Cruise, if you go on the link below in our show notes, if you put in the code MESSY, we will give you a special date night kit. Yeah. Right?
It's going to be awesome. Yeah, actually. And we'll display that.
It's helpful for them to know that we sent you. So that's why you have to put in that code. So they need to know that we sent you to them. Thank you for saying that. Because and then as a special thank you for those who sign up using that code, we will be able to then know, okay, this is who we have to send off the date night kit.
a really special date night package for you that you're going to love.
And plus, it's great for us to know how many of our listeners are there, because being in Cozumel and just being able to hang out with all of our listeners the entire time we were there, that was just the greatest thing ever. So people are making relationships with each other, but also we get to just be with you.
Yeah.
And so we have one talk to do, and then we're doing mentoring, make ourselves available, but then we'll just be hanging out and enjoying ourselves. And we would love to be with you. So, and it's a beautiful cruise down to the Caribbean. Really, really well done. And my parents had no complaints at all. They loved the way it was organized. They loved the food
were ready to come
and
right
everything.
Back.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
And I heard from the organizers that a lot of people rebook because they're just so excited. They're like, oh, we can't wait for the next one.
Good experience.
And so we're really looking forward to this. We've talked to other people who've been on this in addition to your parents who just really love that time. So we're looking forward to being on the Good News Cruise next January.
That's right.
Woohoo.
So Katie, we had you join us today for a purpose, not just because you're amazing, because you have been just, all right. So actually we were in and around our nation's capital, and we had a lot of great couples, a lot of great parents who
came to our events,
who were asking some awesome questions. We collected more questions than we could actually respond to.
So all of our friends at St. Jerome's in Hyattsville and in Burke, Virginia, you guys had some amazing questions. So amazing that we decided to share them with our entire listening audience, because they were very thoughtful, and they're questions that we actually get a lot. And so I think that it's worth it to kind of cover those.
Yeah. Even reading through the questions, I was like, these are really good. Or I was like, either like very hard hitting or like, I struggle with that too.
Yeah.
So,
that's awesome.
Yeah. Perfect.
So why don't we start off, Katie?
All right. So our first question, and to talk about relatable, it is, thank you. I find messiness, like little messes, chaos and noise overwhelming, but it obviously comes with family life and with kids.
Right.
Tips for being more okay and joyful in the mess. I literally feel like this is my everyday life, where I feel very like almost triggered.
Just tell people how many kids you have. So you have two kids.
So I have
two toddlers, basically.
2 kids. Yeah. Well, yeah. 3 kids. Jorge.
Oh, no, I said 2 toddlers.
Oh, 2 toddlers. I thought you said 3 kids.
Which is like 3 kids.
I'm not pregnant. I don't know if you know something.
No, 2 toddlers is like 4 kids.
2 toddlers feels like an army of children.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have two toddlers, one 1-year-old and one 2.5. And I triggered sounds like dramatic, but it is sometimes like clutter, kind of just like makes me like, like it heightens everything else just for me, because I just like, you always said clean room, clean mind, or like something when we were growing up, that it's like, you can't focus if there's stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
And so I definitely feel like this, but I know that my vocation and my calling is to be with my kids. And like sometimes being with my kids means leaving the clutter, leaving the mess, and just being with them because they're crying and they need me.
Yeah.
But that's like such a hard thing.
Frustration, right?
Yes. So how do you be okay and how do you stay joyful?
Right.
Well, the first thing I think of is just be a man and ignore it.
Compartmentalize.
I'm sorry. No. There are plenty of men who get stressed out by that too.
I think that this is from a woman, but maybe it's from a man. It could be because some men.
There are definitely men and women who both get stressed out. But
that's true.
That is just the first thought.
So my first thought automatically is as far as like managing the mess. So I know there's like kind of 2 aspects of this question, because the one is managing the environment, but I really think the question may be more about managing yourself, right?
That's right.
It's like, what can you control? Because sometimes, so what can you control? Okay. So sometimes we can control the mess by simplifying, like getting rid of toys, right? Only if a 3-year-old, they have 3 toys or 5 toys. If they're a 5-year-old, they have like more toys. The other thing is having some kind of routine where that, okay, the house is going to get messy during these hours, but then at like 5 o'clock, like Aunt Maria, my sister, would always have like 5 o'clock pickup, because it was before they sat down to dinner. She really wanted to have like all of the toys picked up from that first floor. And so kind of like, you can sometimes be okay with the mess if okay, it's just for this time. In a couple hours, we're going to clean everything up. And then having like a Saturday where you have like a larger cleanup, like your big toy room or whatever.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like those kinds of things.
And it really is so vital to get the kids involved, even a younger, even toddlers. It's got to start a little bit. Teaching those as chores, because mom can't be the slave or the dad can't be the slave of the household.
Right.
Kids need to learn from a very early age. They are not the center of the universe, and everything doesn't revolve around them.
Yeah.
Infants and obviously young toddlers, they still have to corral and contain and control and care for them. But you need to involve the kids. And I'll just say this for dads, oftentimes, even when both parents are working outside the home, a lot of that burden sometimes falls to mom.
Yeah.
She might be making dinner, might be doing all these other things. And dads need to step up and say, Mom, you get a break now after working so hard, working on all that's going on.
With the kids and whatever else.
And so, Dad, you scoop up. Either sometimes I would just take the little guys and take them away so Alicia could clean.
Yeah.
And then, or sometimes it was me marshaling and getting the kids together to say, let's clean up the house so that mom can relax right now.
Right.
At different times in our life, different seasons and ebb and flow, it was harder. Let's just be honest, because when you have a lot of little kids, it really is hard when they can't be as helpful. But as soon as you can, don't wait until it's the perfect time. Just start teaching them, training them, informing your kids and helping out.
So then the second part of that question is really looking at yourself, right? Inside, how do you get more peaceful even when there is clutter? And I think that, and I hope people take this the right way, we really do have to sometimes just lower our standards, and just realize that the house is not going to be as clean as before you had children.
Yeah.
It's just not.
I think, didn't Marie Kondo figure that out? Didn't
Oh yeah, and then
she,
gave up.
She recently just came out maybe a month ago. That Marie Kondo.
I think that was a Babylon Bee, but
was it really? No.
Was it real?
I think it was real. I think it was real. I think what happened.
We'll have to look it up. We'll look it up.
Okay, shoot. I hope it was real. I'm pretty sure it was.
Misinformation.
Fact check.
Fake news right here.
Hashtag fake news. But no, I believe that with her children, she has looked at it and said, okay, you know what?
Yeah.
She still believes in her principles. It doesn't mean that, but she's become more flexible and loosened up some of her standards, recognizing that there are more important things.
Yeah. That's what I mean by lessening your standards. It's really not losing your standards. What it is putting things in priority and realizing that, like kind of what we were saying, is that if I'm cleaning up and my kids are crying, what is the most important thing here? The most important thing is not that I am picking these things up, but I hold my baby and I sit down and I just take the time to just calm them down. And I'll be honest with you, that was something that was really hard for me, because especially if I was in the middle of a job or something, it's just so hard for me to not complete it, and just to stop and like hold the baby or, whatever, or help that child or be with that child. But I really do think that is the key to being peaceful, is just being okay with having your priorities in order. I was just talking when we were talking about this question. I was talking one-on-one with a young mom, and she said that she's gotten to the point, and she has like 5 kids. She said she got to the point is that at like 8:00 or whatever time, like for her, it was 8:00. Everybody might have a different time. She would just call it. And she would just say, I am not cleaning the house after 8:00.
What's done is done.
I'm done. And you just have to say because guess what? That's what we have to do at work, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, you kind of get to a point and you're like, I gotta go. Right. And I have to compartmentalize, and say, this is done. And so for her, she had to say at 8:00, I'm done. If the house isn't clean, I have to have some time just to relax. I have to have some time just to talk to my husband. I have to go to sleep. I have to relax. Yeah. And so that is really having a balanced life, is recognizing really what's important and what's not.
I know we say a lot, but it's just to kind of echo what you already said, is intentionality, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And living intentionally means you know how to put first things first. And some people have a greater desire for a mess, or for a non-messy house, for a clean house, for things to be in order.
Organized.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But when it goes to an extreme and we make it more important than our marriage, more important than loving our kids, more
spending
important,
time with people,
whatever, that's the problem. Or I remember someone sharing with us when we were first married, don't wait until your house is perfectly clean to invite friends over. Or things like that. It's like, how many?
Yeah, Katie.
I know.
We were
Mom
talking
was
about
just
that
saying that today.
Oh, were you really?
We literally were talking about this today.
But that was actually a breath of fresh air, and say, what, we don't have to. And that's part of the reason we call ourselves the Messy Family Project. Not because we're proposing that everyone be messy, but that you don't let the mess stop you from living intentionally.
Right.
Okay.
So next question. How can we stay open to life while living in a high cost of living area with very wealthy two-earner families? I feel like this is very relevant. I feel like not even in a high cost of living.
Yeah.
I think it's just a culture now is like money.
Right.
Right. You know, and I mean, for a lot of people, you have to stay where in a high like income area. But a lot of people I know, they work like mid-level jobs and both of them just work. I mean, Jorge, my husband's parents, they both worked like a little bit above entry-level jobs. They both worked that way their whole lives. And they have a beautiful life and they're fine. But like, Jorge's parents were never, everybody has different lives and whatever. And
I think Jorge talked about that on a previous podcast, how his parents just weren't around.
Different culture, different, life. Yeah. But how do you do that? How do you have more kids but still work?
Yeah. And that's not even in a high income area. I think that's what you're saying. It's just like, that's just reality.
Right?
It could be
and
everywhere.
this is coming from the greater Washington, D.C. area, which
is one of the most expensive places to live for sure.
The first thing that comes to mind in talking about this is that we are supposed to be in the world, but not of the world, meaning the world sets up standards that we don't want to get sucked into. In general, our secular culture values stuff and things more than it values people and family and relationships. And so if you feel like you're in a rat race, get out. Get out of that. Like, if there's a competition in your mind of looking at... So
you don't mean get out like change your job. You just mean like in your mind change your mindset.
I'm no longer competing. Like, okay, if you feel like, I feel like I've always got to do X, or those kids are getting these, high-end experiences or clothes or vacations or whatever it might be, or this prestigious school that they're going to, or whatever it might be. Look at what is right in front of you and say, let's start kind of like we've said before, but how do we put first things first? And because if you as a couple if it's causing you stress, if it's causing you anxiety, recognize that you're bringing that in some ways on yourself, because there are, in America, in the first world, in general, we are living far above the vast majority of the rest of the world.
And people who have ever lived even.
and then I remember somebody sharing this, how when they go on mission, they have met in other third world countries, people who were so poor that they couldn't even fathom how they were surviving, right? But there was a joy and a happiness.
Right.
And
they were happy.
So how do we find that joy in the midst of our world? How do we find that kind of peace? It's by, in a way, putting first things first, and say, scripture would say, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. And I really believe that in our family, not that we haven't always had some struggles, and not that there's sometimes like,
always had financial struggles.
I wish we had a nicer van, or I wish we had more room in our house.
Or just, I wish I had a van that worked.
Seriously.
That seems like a constant too. But it's like, but at the end of the day, what do we have? We have our family. We have our life. We have our gifts, and we need to focus maybe a little bit different on that. But that doesn't mean there aren't strategies, because there are some great strategies.
Yes. So I would say, first of all, there's our Wallet Win friends, right?
Jonathan and
Amanda. And all of the things that they are doing.
The Catholic Dave Ramsey.
Exactly. Highly recommend walletwin.com or something. Okay. But I also think it really does take humility, because maybe it's embarrassing to drive around in a 10-year-old van if you are living in the greater DC area, because everybody else, people who have less kids than you, they can afford a nicer car. And that's tough. Maybe you do have to shop at Goodwill. Maybe you can't buy the newest clothes. Maybe your kids aren't going to have brand new sneakers. That happens. And that's kind of like what you were saying about like the rat race. Part of it is a mindset. You have to just kind of get out of it and just be like, honey, we can't afford that. It's okay to say to your kids, honey, we can't afford that. Don't be embarrassed to say that, because you are choosing what is greater, and you can still live a joyful, intentional life.
Right.
And I'm not saying that it's easy, but it is possible. And we have to kind of change our standards, recognizing that, like you were saying, we honestly have a higher standard of living than most people in the developed world in general.
And I'll just add this on the flip side. For those who are doing really well, there's challenges on all sides. So when you don't have a lot of money, there's a struggle. But when you have a lot of money, there are different struggles.
Right.
And it's like, but now, again, if you have the means to recognize, you want to make sure you're passing on those values that you really do care about. Even if you have the ability, maybe you're not taking all those luxurious vacations, right? Maybe you are saying, hey, how do we live off of a more modest income to teach simplicity to our kids? But we are then have the freedom to do these things. And that's great. And that's awesome. There's nothing wrong with having wealth.
Mm-hmm.
It's a matter of, do we prize the wealth or prize having more wealth above the things that really matter?
Right. Yeah. And what that means for your family, like being open to life. That's what they're talking about. So
that's right.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. How do I talk to my own parents, my kids' grandparents, about issues from family origin, my own parents' failures? All the other questions I had, I had personal experience with.
I was going to say, Katie, don't do it right now.
Mom, I want to talk to you about it.
Is this an intervention?
This is an intervention.
I love it. Let's go.
No, I mean, but I know that
it's a common experience. I think
it's a common experience for a lot of people. And I know, of course, I remember when you shared with us about your upbringing and things and stuff. So definitely relevant, but not to me, thankfully.
Yeah. Oh.
Well, and actually though, I mean, really, I think everybody has wounds from their family of origin.
And it's okay, Katie.
And it's really okay.
I told Jorge this, though, that on the day you were married, something ended. Okay. And something new began, because I had set up a counseling fund for you. And I told him, now she's in your hands.
She's your problem now.
But
yeah, you're
really,
right.
I mean, but it's good to recognize that even the best parents wound their children. And so if you feel like from this question, how do I talk to them about issues from my family of origin? I think that the first thing is to realize that you're not alone, that everybody has issues, because all parents are sinners, all parents make mistakes. And then to realize that kind of like from that, recognize that you need to have some empathy for your parents, because someday you are going to be in their shoes.
Yeah.
Because you aren't, as much as we try to be good parents, we can never be perfect parents.
Yeah.
And we're still going to hurt our children in some way. So recognize that, hey, 20 years from now, your kids could be coming back to you. How do you want them to, how would you want to receive that conversation? And just, it is really hard to be parents of adult children. It really is. It's just a different type of parenting, and to have children come back to you. And we have had that, we have had those conversations with our kids, because we, contrary to popular belief, are not perfect.
What?
Yes.
But those conversations, though, happened in a spirit of reconciliation. So there's this difference between reconciliation and forgiveness. You want to talk about that?
No.
Okay. So reconciliation.
I will talk about something else.
Reconciliation takes two people, right? That's reconciling the relationship. But that's not always possible. But before reconciliation can happen, which may or may not be possible, forgiveness and healing has to happen.
And that's what I wanted to talk about.
Forgiveness is possible with just one person. You need to have forgiveness and to be healed, not 100% healed, but you need to be healed to the point where those wounds don't hurt anymore before speaking to your parents, because that's just not fair.
And I think that's what's key for me, right? As an adult child of divorce, as somebody who grew up with an alcoholic father, right? I needed to recognize the wounds. And so the wounds of your childhood are real and they're substantial and they need to be healed. And the end result, or the final step in the healing, is really forgiveness.
Yeah.
It isn't necessarily full reconciliation, because we can't control that, right?
Right.
And that's where, the important part, what you just said, that reconciliation requires both parties. But the healing and the forgiveness is you and the Lord, maybe counseling, maybe your spouse.
Right.
But there's a cop-out that we have that, my parents did the best they could. Or a cop-out that, hey, they didn't know any better.
It's not that big of a deal. I shouldn't feel this way.
And you know what? That's BS, because ultimately, if you are wounded, you are wounded. Just own that. And the more that we can identify it, not to wallow in it, but to call it out, bring it from the darkness into the light, so it can be healed. So it can be, and for me, that meant writing down a long list of things and ways that I was hurt, ways that I was not treated the way I desired, wanted, and maybe deserved. But that doesn't mean that it was all my parents' fault or all my dad's fault. That doesn't mean that they did it intentionally. That doesn't mean that, you know, so in recognizing all of that, that isn't necessarily something we need to bring to our parents. I mean, that's the other part of this, which you kind of addressed, is that we have to discern whether or not that, one, we need that healing. There's no discernment involved. You have wounds, heal it, work on it, and then forgive. And you forgive until that you know, you don't need to forgive anymore because the hurt is gone, right? But that doesn't mean that everything needs to be brought forward. It may not be fruitful. It may not be wise. You may want to actually have better boundaries than that, because when you seek reconciliation, it can hurt when it's not reciprocated.
Right.
And so in dealing with that, you have to discern whether or not you need to. And when you do need to, think about, as Alicia said, putting yourself in their shoes, but also, you know, if the goal is reconciliation, recognize that you're not just dumping on them, that you're trying to have a more fruitful relationship that is built on greater honesty. And that takes time. And if you don't have that strong of a relationship with your parents in this situation, it may not be the immediate path for you, right? But don't ever dismiss the need for healing and forgiveness, regardless of whether you fully reconcile, because that would be another part of the step.
And I think that, like, from when our children have come to us, really it was that reconciliation that needed to happen. You know, that was really, it was really fruitful and helpful.
It's not always the easiest thing to hear, no matter how, you know, your relationship is.
But the goal was not just to dump on us. The goal was reconciliation. So,
Okay. Do your kids behave in church?
No. Okay.
Now, our kids are older, but
right now, yes, our kids do.
You have reached the finish line.
Did they in the beginning? Well, we won't mention any names, but you know, we have had children.
Did you want? What's been your experience with your kids in church?
Yeah.
Like, I would love to hear.
We're trying to think how, but my kids. Okay, so my kids don't behave. I don't behave. What does that even mean? Okay, like ugly word. No, I'm just kidding. No. But no, I feel like listening to your guys' podcast on children, Cheerios in the pew, right? Having kids in church. I took and gleaned a lot of that. And I feel like we're at a place where I'm like, we can, for the most part, everybody has weird days, but I'm like,
I mean, they are 2 and 1, you know?
They're toddlers, but for toddlers, I'm like, my kids play quietly in the pew. We are still in like the very first, you know, pew in the children's chapel, because Catalina still has her moments and she's just learning, you know, how to scream and stuff, which is super fun. But, like, I feel like for the most part, we can sit and enjoy the liturgy because they're playing quietly. We have their books. We sit in the same exact spot every time, so they know what to expect. Like, you know, all these different things that like you guys have taught us, and just like makes sense. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna have a million, you know, crayons and stuff for Mateo because he loves doing that and it's quiet and he's focused.
Yeah.
And then too, which I love, is they will kneel down with me and like they imitate us, and I'm like,
it's actually working.
It's working.
Well, you know what? That's what I was going to say. What a lot of parents forget is that if you are in the pew looking at your child all the time and they're looking at you, that they are modeling what they see you doing.
That's right.
If you want your children to pray, you need to pray.
That's right.
And only turn and look at them, maybe with the slightest of, if they're like, you know, just kind of playing quietly or messing around, just leave them alone.
Yeah.
Pray, because they are absorbing the environment around them.
And the reality that at Mass, you are receiving the liturgy, the power of liturgy. Now they are too, because the grace is real, regardless of their fully appreciation of it. Their subjective reality, is not.
The little ones have that absorbent mind. They're
taking
receiving it in by just being in the environment. Yeah.
And we need Jesus. We need to be present. Moms
we do not
and dads,
have an absorbent mind, so we need to actually pay attention.
Focus, right? and it's hard to do that, because I remember, feeling, was I even at Mass?
Yeah. You're like, what just happened?
I barely remember. I know I received communion, but outside of that, I don't remember what happened at Mass. And physically being present is the minimum, but hopefully getting to a place where you can actually be that model, and you're like, guys, I'm praying right now, and figure out those tools that you found, the books, the things that keep them quiet,
routine,
so that they're taking it in, because again, kids, like you said, the absorbent mind, they take in much more of the environment than we realize, and the environment is so important. Because if you bring, and again, the quiet books, the little rosaries, the Jesus books, the coloring board books, right?
I would choose like one thing. Like, you don't have to bring everything. But if you just bring board books, or when they get a little older, if you just have like 2 crayons and a little like pad that they can draw on.
Right.
Like simple
or the children's bulletin.
Better. Yes, or the children's bulletin.
Yeah.
Or we just like would
Magnifikids or whatever.
I would just grab that, and then the kids would just like draw on the little bulletin thing,
awesome.
Yeah, like it's the simpler the better, for sure.
And again, we have a whole podcast on all of these questions, right? But we have the Cheerios in the pew, and probably another one too.
It's really great.
And but I think about how the preparation, like if you want to, are your kids praying or sitting still at any other time during the week, or is it only on Mass on Sunday? And so as you look at it, the best preparation you can make is making sure you're praying at other times, where you're asking them, whether it be praying the rosary, even just the simple thing at grace at meals, it teaches a habit where they can be still, they can be quiet, and they can pray with you as a family. Again, at home, you can do it smaller, but if you're doing that on a regular basis, you're making them more familiar with that. And you can even take them to church outside of Mass so that they get, show them the tabernacle, show them, if you have a nativity scene, the statues, the reverence that they require. So
I feel like imitation is like such a big thing. I feel like that's what I've learned, at least in toddlers.
So true. So true.
How do you embrace Montessori theory without the modern Montessori culture of expensive toys and constant attention to your children? That is a great question.
So what's your reaction to that? Because you've read a little bit more. I mean, I shouldn't say more, but we've both read about the Montessori philosophy and have been in that environment before.
Yes.
So because my reaction to that is I think that that's a misunderstanding of the Montessori philosophy.
100%.
Okay. So when you hear, how do I parent,
because Katie has worked in a Montessori school.
Yes, I should clarify.
We obviously are big fans of Montessori, and Alicia helped found a Montessori school here in Steubenville.
Right. My kids go to Montessori school now.
So what would be for your first reaction?
My reaction is I kind of I'm a little sad that Montessori has become like this ritzy, only
niche
super
thing.
Super niche, super expensive. Because it's literally the origin of Montessori is not that. The origin was to help the less fortunate children, and it's the beauty of Montessori is it's simple. Like
I was going to say simplicity. Honestly,
it's simplicity.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's my first thought. My first thought too is just experiential learning, like going out to nature. Yeah, that is the Montessori principle.
Totally.
Doesn't matter if it's if it's safe for your kids to go outside. I mean, it's not too cold. You guys should be outside.
Right.
Every day, all the time.
Right. At our school, the little kids are outside literally unless it is pouring rain. Yeah. If it's raining, they still go outside. Right. If it's pouring rain, no. If it's snowing, they definitely go outside. Yeah. I was there the other day and it was super windy. All the kids are outside. When I say the kids, I mean 1.5-year-olds.
Yes, like my son
and on up. They were being in nature was one of the big principles of Montessori. But just to real quick, Maria Montessori was an educational philosopher and philanthropist who created a way of teaching children. And she was really a genius in many ways. And I think it was because of her Catholic faith and her experience of the dignity of the human person. That's how she created a way of teaching children and really helping them develop, recognizing that they're not just little blank slates that we adults have to like pour into or write on, but they are instead like a seed planted in the ground.
Right.
And that we adults, our job is to, first of all, get out of the way, right? And let them develop, but you give them the environment, an enriching environment for them. So I think that this question is kind of like, how do you create that enriching environment without expensive toys? And
which
all
you
of
think
that?
is very possible, is what you're saying.
That is exactly what I'm saying, because I think that the simplicity, we've misunderstood that simplicity, you know?
Yeah.
And so that may mean, yes, instead of having, your work done by yourself, instead allowing your child to help you like sort laundry
dishes.
or do the dishes, or like having like a stool or something. I mean, Pat like took some boards, Pat, my son, took some boards and like made a stool
Yep.
so his kids could stand up on,
awesome.
so they could wash dishes,
Right.
you know? So you don't necessarily have to go and like buy an expensive Montessori like sink or something to have next to you. You can just do something like that. And I think also it's a more of an attitude of this child is not like go away and play, but recognizing that the child wants to work. The child wants purposeful work, not a plastic like toy that looks like they're working, but they want actual purposeful work. You know what's a great Montessori toys, especially for boys outside? Get a stump, get a bunch of dirt is also good, but get a stump, get a bunch of nails, and then buy a little hammer, a little tack hammer, and you can like tie it to something so they won't lose it, and then let them pound those nails in. That's not an expensive toy. You don't have to do that. They would enjoy that much better than some kind of plastic hammer that they're not actually doing anything with.
And I remember just thinking about how you can incorporate this into the home. I think it was great to hear from some Montessori experts that they don't want you to recreate the classroom or even the atrium per se in your home, because it's your home. Mm-hmm. But like, you know, having your kids, having kind of that Montessori approach is actually very simple.
Yeah.
And it's just thinking, like you just said, about how can we use our natural environment to give them purposeful work so that they see, because that's what they, you know, it's not, oh, we're not doing classroom assignments. They're doing work at school.
Right.
What was the work you're working? You know,
exactly.
All of those things is beautiful.
Right.
And then just as a disclaimer, not every Montessori school is following that philosophy. Not every Montessori school is Catholic. There actually have probably more are not today than
95%, probably.
And so be very discerning in what kind of program and what are they advocating? What kind of citizen of the world are they trying to create in their maybe secular view of what Montessori is? Because again, there are truths in Montessori that the secular culture has said, yes, this is good for educational purposes. Well, we need to recognize that as parents, we need to be discerning. You know, we talk about that in other episodes about discerning educational choices. You need to be very thoughtful about where you're sending your kids. So don't just say, oh, it's Montessori, therefore we trust them.
Right.
No, be discerning as you would with anything that you send your kids to. But then taking this philosophy, and I'd say even CGS, Catechesis of the Good Shepherd, and Montessori is something beautiful to think about. How can I make this as part of our home life and learn from that, but don't necessarily try to recreate everything that would be particularly if your kids go to Montessori, don't try to recreate that at home. But do take some of the philosophy or approaches there in how you give your kids chores.
And if you are interested, you can listen to a podcast that we did with Maggie Radzik on toddlers. I would highly recommend. She has a great perspective on how to incorporate that Montessori philosophy in home. She never mentioned, oh, you need to buy this.
No,
I don't think she said that, not even once.
Yeah, so it's not about stuff.
Yeah, it's not about the stuff.
I mean, and even just, I'm like even thinking as you guys are saying this, I'm like spooning beans. You can buy beans for $1. Like my son could do that for forever. Like I had so many kids, that was their favorite work, was just like spooning one bean from, you know, 2 different bowls and making the environment child size, like things like that. Like it's literally, it is a mindset more than it is. I feel like it's toys, which so
very good.
That's that. How do you have the strength to be intentional / live for purpose when you're exhausted all the time?
You can't relate to that, can you? Katie and I have been living in a sleep-deprived state for the past year.
14
probably.
months.
14 months? What happened 14 months ago? Catalina was born.
Joy of my life. Bane of my nighttime sleep. She is the most wonderful child, but.
So you think this is a common question? This is a concern? This is something that others might.
I literally might, yes. This is so, I mean, I feel like every like family with toddlers.
I don't have a child
infants.
waking me up and I'm still exhausted. I can fall asleep right now.
I mean, this is life. Parenting is not for the weak.
Faint of heart. Yes. That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, and there is no easy button sometimes, you know.
There is no easy button.
No. Wow, why do we need one of those?
Yeah.
But yeah, how do you keep it going?
So the question is about intentionality in the midst of being exhausted,
living
right?
for purpose.
Because so we talk about this a lot, the idea of living for purpose.
Beautiful.
And people say that there's now a drinking game. Whenever we say intentional, you take a drink. And so we do believe in that purpose-driven life, if you will, or living with a greater intentionality. So our world is oriented towards the busy. How are you doing today? Busy. How's it going, man? Haven't seen you in a while. Oh, I'm busy. I'm real busy. Oh, sorry, I haven't caught up. Yeah, I'm real busy. You know what? We need to get out of that mentality because again, this is a rat race. This is a competition of some sort that we've somehow fallen prey to, right? And we need to stop and say, we're opting out of that system and that world. And as parents, sometimes we can feel like all we're doing is shuttling our kids from school or sports or activities or this or that. And we're moving around and we need to take a pause. We need to take a step back and say, we need to get off the crazy train and live with greater intentionality. That doesn't mean... I was
going to say family board meeting.
Yeah.
Get off the crazy train and have a family board meeting and figure out your life.
And so the family board meeting is a way to actually get yourself out of living day to day, living crisis to crisis, moment to moment.
Right.
So you can look out and say, where are we going? Are we going there together? Or are we in two different directions as a couple, as a spouses, as parents? What does it take for us to get out of that? Because if the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results.
Right.
So if you are exhausted now, if you feel busy, if you feel spread, what is it? Like too little jam spread over too much bread or whatever that saying is, right? Where it's just like you just feel spread so thin. And just say, okay, honey, we got to stop.
Yeah.
We got to take a pause and we got to carve out some time to say what's some of the big stuff that we need to say yes to, and what's some of the other stuff that's just crisis oriented, that's just urgent moments that aren't actually important.
Right. And I think it's a matter of living according to priorities. So to prioritize, oh my God, I can't talk right now. Sorry. I'm exhausted. I'm so but too much partying last night. No. Your priorities are first the spiritual life of your home, then your marriage, then relationships with your children, then developing giftedness, and then family operations.
And then everything else.
And then everything else. And I think a lot of times parents get tripped up when they start putting kids' activities and above taking care of their own health, taking care of their own marriage. We have to get those things in order. Right. And I think that sometimes even when we put even relationships with our children over our relationship with the Lord, and we're not taking care of who we are and what are our needs.
Yeah.
And it's very, very fair. We have definitely had periods of time where I just said, we are not doing anything. Like we are not doing any outside activities for the next couple months.
Yeah.
We're not, everybody's just staying home because I couldn't, this is when I think you were maybe like 8 years old or something. And I just had too much going on. I couldn't think. You are not a victim. Okay. And that's what I find sometimes when parent asks this kind of questions, there's a little tinge of, I'm not in control of my life.
Don't believe the lie.
I don't have a choice. That's a lie.
Yeah.
You always have a choice. You always have a choice. Sometimes even the choice is that change in your own mindset.
That's right.
Maybe you're like, well, I can't change having 3 little kids under 3. I can't change Catalina, waking up in the middle of the night. Like we can do our best. We tried this and that. I know you guys are working it out.
Right.
But sometimes it's a matter of, I'm going to change my mindset to realize this is only a phase. This is just for a time. And saying, Lord, I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to give over this sacrifice that I am doing. I'm going to give this sacrifice to you. So it's not being done with resentment. It's not being done with the attitude of a victim, but instead saying, my life, Lord, is a sacrifice for you. Yeah. I cannot tell you how many times at the beginning of my day, I would just think about all I had to do. And I would just pray. I just say, Lord, multiply my time. Lord, multiply my time because I cannot get this all done.
Yeah.
And that enables me even now to just live in peace.
Yeah.
To live in peace, because that's really the most important thing. And you always have control over that. You can always have control to choose peace.
And I think that if you look and say, what can we control?
Right.
And we let go of the rest, right? The serenity prayer, like just thinking about what is the most important things and how can we control that? Like I can control the amount of time that I spend with my wife. I can control the amount of time that I spend with my kids. I can say no to certain things,
right?
But it begins by saying, what do we want to say yes to?
Yeah.
And then protect that yes with 1,000 no's to other stuff, cutting them out. And sometimes it might be, it's kind of like if you want to quit a habit like smoking or something, you got to go cold turkey. You got to just get it out and say, I'm not going to have anything to do with it. So if there's something in your life that you look at and you as this, you take some time, and this is why the family board meeting is great, is because we walk through an assessment of being able to assess, where are we at? Where are we off? Where's the pain point? You as a couple, if you're a single parent, find somebody else who can help you discern through, say, what is my pain point? What is my problem? If you can't see it, get somebody else to help you. And finding out what that thing you need to say, I got to cut this out. Because you know what? This is driving me down. This is draining my energy.
Yeah.
This is sucking my time away from the things that matter most.
Right.
And I remember a good, our former spiritual director, Father Mike, would always say, why don't people have time for prayer? It's because they don't make time for prayer.
Yeah.
And so it's a simple thing. Is it in your schedule? So if you say your marriage is important, but it's you never see each other, it's not important then.
Right.
Make it important by saying, I can see in my daily schedule, my weekly schedule, this is where I'm investing my time. Make time, carve out and put a wall around the things that are important. And then everything else, just say, for a season, I'm going to just say no to everything else except getting our house in order, if you will.
You know what I always think of is like when I was nursing my infants, would I ever say, oh my God, I never had time to nurse the baby today? Right. I would never do that, because you know what? The whole world stops when you gotta feed that baby. You sit down and you do it.
Because it's both urgent and important.
Exactly. Because you make that time.
You have to.
Exactly. Because you have to make that time. So we have to recognize that we do have control. We just have to say no to other things.
Right.
And the one thing too, I just want to have a shout out to those dads who are helping to do things like sleep train their kids. Because I know my brother Paul he took a whole week and is staying up every night with their 1-year-old to get him to sleep. So his wife, Samora, my sister-in-law, she's sleeping in another room, and he is just sleep training that baby. And he goes to work every day.
Do hard things.
Exactly. Yeah. He's doing that hard thing because he's like, this has to be done.
Yeah. This is how you lay down your life.
Yeah. This is how you lay down your life because having some kind of routine and having kids to bed on a regular basis, I really think that is the key to a peaceful life, is getting up at a certain time and going to bed at a certain time. Also, real quick little note too, about social media and being online.
Yeah.
I really think that's
Time
one
sucks.
of the reasons that a lot of women especially are exhausted, is because when you have downtime, don't go on your phone. When you have downtime, just allow your mind to go, because sometimes when our brain is constantly processing, having things in front of us, even when you're sitting down, that exhausts you. Your brain doesn't need to think about anything. Sit down.
Stimuli.
Exactly. Too much stimuli. Sometimes it's just like, just look out the window. Just stare out the window. Just pray. Just grab a rosary. Like just say a couple Hail Marys.
Walk around your house.
Or just take a walk or read a book, or something like that. I think that we underestimate how having constant screens is exhausting our brains. And so we need to, and also enabling us to not sleep well. At night.
Yes.
And so really taking that social media fast, I think will help give people energy back.
And I really do. And it comes down to those getting those simple things right. It's like, again, I'll just do it in identity, but it's like, first and foremost, you're a son or daughter. How are you being filled up in your spiritual relationship? Even physical exercise, all of those things that are important to who you are. Then in your marriage, getting your marriage right, getting that coupleness and that time together. And then how are we loving our kids? And after that, again, there's more than just that, but it's like, if those are the first three things, if you get those right, the rest of the things will actually make better sense. And you can just say, this is what I have time for. And, all of us live on a financial budget. We need to live on a budget of time and say, I only have time for the things that matter most.
Yeah.
And be at peace. Or maybe one more. Maybe
I'd say, would you have time for another?
Okay.
When do we have one more? Maybe?
About that one?
Well, that's kind of like the same thing.
Yeah. That is.
Okay. Or maybe, okay. Well, why don't we save the rest maybe for a future time then? Okay. All right. Well, so we love getting these questions, and these obviously came from an event we were at and from some great people. But as you, as you're listening, if there are questions that come up, we love responding to questions.
We do.
And maybe we'll add them to a future, podcast that we'll respond to, or we'll be able to email you back.
It's nice to be able to email people and be like, hey, we're answering this question today.
That's right. That's right. I remember back when we first started, before it was a nonprofit organization, we would have people sponsor a show, and we would just have a topic that they would. So if you have a really great topic, something that you're still struggling with, or a lot of your friends are, please send that in, because it really is encouraging to us.
Yeah.
The whole mission of the Messy Family Project is to empower moms and dads to embrace their sacred calling. And that's what we hope to do. That's what we desire to do. And we'd love to be a partner and journey with you on your parenting, whether you're going to join us for the family board meeting that's happening next month, or a future event, or a getaway, or you're finding resources like the tech guide or the discipline guide, but we want to invite you to be a part of the work that we're doing in helping encourage other families embrace their sacred calling as a mom, as a dad, as a husband and a wife.
So let's pray.
Let's pray.
We can close. All right. In the name of the Father and Son and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord, we just thank you for this time together. We thank you for all of the people who have asked these questions, and all of those people whose questions are on their hearts. We ask that you just send your Holy Spirit to inspire them and strengthen them, and just to really take what we have said and to bring it to their spouse. And so you can be present there with them. And Lord, just let them know that you care about them, and that you want to inspire them to be the best parents they can be, so they can love their children with your love, O Lord, and walk this path to heaven together. Lord Jesus, it is in your name that we pray all of this.
Amen. Amen. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. And until next time, may the Lord bless you and keep you.